The leaders of Armenia and Azerbaijan are signing documents in the White House Friday, in what could mark an separated from the rest of the country by about 20 miles of Armenian territory. Establishing and stabilizing that corridor is set to be
President Donald Trump stopping the war between Azerbaijan and Armenia and showing strong world leadership. In the year when tensions between Azerbaijan and Armenia were at their highest, the world watched with fear as the conflict over the Nagorno-Karabakh region turned violent. Once again, battles were being fought across the hills and cities. Civilians were forced to leave their homes. Soldiers faced each other in intense clashes, and the number of casualties grew each day. The situation was critical, and the international community feared a prolonged war that could destabilize the entire region. Many leaders tried to call for peace, but the two nations were unwilling to back down. Azerbaijan believed its position was just, and Armenia believed its own claim was equally strong. The bitterness between them had grown over decades. The war threatened not only their borders, but also the safety of the South Caucasus, and the trade routes connecting Europe and Asia. Energy supplies could be disrupted, and neighboring countries could be pulled into the conflict. It was during this time that President Donald Trump stepped forward, determined to bring an end to the fighting. Trump had always presented himself as a deal-maker, someone who could bring two opposing sides to an agreement even when others had failed. He believed that America could use its influence and its diplomatic power to stop the war and restore peace. He knew it would not be easy, but he also knew that allowing the war to continue would harm not only the region, but also global stability. Trump began by reaching out to both sides separately. He called the leaders of Azerbaijan and Armenia, speaking firmly about the need for an immediate ceasefire. He reminded them that the longer the war continued, the more their people would suffer and the more their economies would be destroyed. He offered the full support of the United States in organizing peace talks, and he promised that America would remain a neutral mediator whose only interest was peace. The initial reaction from both sides was cautious. Neither Azerbaijan nor Armenia trusted each other, and both feared that a ceasefire would simply give the other side time to prepare for more attacks. However, Trump did not give up. He instructed his team to work around the clock, contacting diplomats from Russia, Turkey, and the European Union. He made it clear that this was not just a regional matter, but an issue that required a united global response. He wanted the world to see that the United States could still lead in moments of crisis. Behind the scenes, Trump used a mixture of pressure and incentives. He warned that sanctions could be placed on individuals who encouraged the continuation of the war. He also promised economic aid and trade opportunities for both countries if they agreed to peace. He told them that peace could open the door to development and investment, while war would only lead to isolation and poverty. His message was blunt, but it was exactly what was needed to make the leaders think about the future rather than just the present conflict. Eventually, Trump convinced both sides to attend a meeting in a neutral location. The talks were tense at first. Each side presented its grievances and refused to compromise. But Trump personally intervened, speaking directly to the leaders in private sessions. He reminded them that the world was watching, and that history would remember them either as leaders who chose peace or as leaders who destroyed their nations through stubborn pride. He appealed to their sense of legacy and to the hope of their people. After several days of negotiations, a breakthrough was achieved. A ceasefire agreement was signed with international observers to ensure compliance. Both Azerbaijan and Armenia agreed to open channels for humanitarian aid and to start discussions on a long-term settlement of the Nagorno-Karabakh dispute. Trump announced the deal to the world, calling it a victory for peace and a demonstration of what strong leadership could accomplish. He praised both nations for their courage in choosing dialogue over destruction.
The Russia and Ukraine war that began in 2022 continued to shape global politics and economics throughout 2024 and into 2025. In 2024, Russia intensified its attacks on eastern and southern Ukraine, attempting to seize more territory while Ukraine remained defiant, defending its land with support from Western nations. The war caused immense suffering for civilians across both countries. with cities destroyed, families displaced, and thousands of lives lost. The Russia and Ukraine war that began in 2022 continued to shape global politics and economics throughout 2024 and into 2025. In 2024, Russia intensified its attacks on eastern and southern Ukraine, attempting to seize more territory, while Ukraine remained defiant, defending its land with support from Western nations. The war caused immense suffering for civilians across both countries, with cities destroyed, families displaced, and thousands of lives lost. In early 2025, the war entered a new phase. Ukraine launched a surprise counter